Commission special meeting, March 13th, 2018. Roll call, please. City Clerk Beth Cecil.
Commissioner Jay Vallada.
Here.
Commissioner Larry Condor.
Here.
Mayor Tom Watson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bob Glenn.
Here.
Commissioner Pam Smithright.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, first item number 3, the infamous triplet twist update. Shelton, Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. My name is Abby Shelton. I am the Community Development Director for the City of Owensboro, and I'm here today to give you an update about where we are with the Triplet Twist Revitalization Strategy Area neighborhood. So just a bit of a background. Funding sources for this project come from Community Development Block Grant funds as well as Home Investment Partnership Program funds. The difference between the two sources of funding include CDBG can be used for economic development, public facilities, home building activities, especially affordable housing, acquisition, demolition, as well as structure rehab, which is something that we have done all of in the Triplet Twist area. Home funds are typically used for homeowner activities as well as rental activities. Of course, creation of affordable housing is the main objective of this program. CDBG and home have traditionally, everybody's seen a decline in the amount of funds that have been given to the entitlement communities. We are an entitlement community, therefore we do receive a portion of the CDBG and home funding based on our population. We have typically, it's evened out in the past few years, received about $410,000 in CDBG funds and $180,000 in home funds. So what these funds are used for revolve around 3 national objectives. These are the objectives we use for the CDBG program. We benefit low and moderate income persons, prevent or eliminate slum or blight, and meet a community having a particular urgency. All of these programs that we do run in the Triplet Twist neighborhood as well as anywhere outside of the NRSA are based on HUD income limits. We are functioning right now off the 2017 HUD income limits. And what this is, it's based on the area median income, which is $54,100 currently. And anybody that is 80% or below that income qualifies for our programs based on, for instance, a 1-person household can make $31,650. An 8-person household can make $59,700. We do take into consideration all the income in that household that applies as well. So in Triplet Twist, our estimated budget, which will run through October 2019, is $4.7 million, 1.6 of that being public and 3.097 being private investment. Current projects in that area include the existing homeowner exterior rehabilitation program, the business facade exterior rehabilitation program, first-time homebuyer down payment assistance program, first-time homebuyer program, landscape sign beautification, and the RWRA downspout removal program. And I will cover all of these more in depth. So currently, this is an idea of the little stars, or an idea of where we have current projects going and or proposed projects, applications in the process, income guidelines being met, and of course, these include both exterior rehab to homes as well as businesses, and the green stars are actually the landscape beautification program, which I'll go into further. So the Triplet Twist existing homeowner rehab, just to give you an idea of a few of the projects that we've worked on, that is a before picture of a home in Colonial Court. And then this person elected to participate in the program. Actually, it was a down payment assistance program initially with home funds. And then they participated in the CDBG program through doing existing exterior rehab. So they put new siding on the house, a new roof, and the rest of it is actually their own investment, as you can see. Another home, an example of how we're helping these homeowners, that's a before picture of a home in Colonial Court. The homeowner elected to install new siding, and whereas you can't see a lot of change in the siding, They wrapped the home in some more insulation and did install new siding, which has helped the homeowner with their utility bills as of current. They are also looking at a new roof to be this summer to be put on the property. Another home to illustrate that not only do we help low-income homeowners, but we do try to increase the PVA values in these neighborhoods. So that is the before picture of a home on Pearl Street and an after picture. I tried to capture a good day where it wasn't dreary just to make it look better, but there is, as you can see, a pergola. There's new concrete, new window frames, and there's 2 new windows that were, well, they're not new, but they were reinstalled in that home, so it looks a little bit more like a home and more inviting. Another home on 19th Street, actually. This is a before picture, and using local contractors. Was repainted, a fence repaired and installed, and I believe we're going to look at doing a driveway on the right-hand side of that property this spring. As far as the business facade side of it, as you know, we've been trying to concentrate on the Gabe's shopping area and the Gabe's Tower area. That is 2001 Triplet Street. Of course, we do take into consideration not only doing business facade repairs or rehab, but we also do the elimination of slum and blight to create economic opportunities in that area. So we purchased and demoed that property, which it's now just an empty lot, and it is the lots next to that or to the south of that lot are in private ownership. And I'm looking at putting together an RFP for those properties to see what we can get as far as economic development, because that property owner is open to selling those properties. I don't have any more CDBG funds to purchase those, or we'd look at that as well. 1928 Triplet Street, which is across the lot, and you can see Gabe's Tower in the background. That was an abandoned gas station turned into a storage lot for a car lot across the street. And we raised that building and canopy, and are waiting for a few other items to be removed from the ground. There's lifts underneath the ground, so we have to get those removed as well. So we're working out a deal with a local business to get those removed and the holes filled in. Of course, the largest investment that we're making in that area, around the Gabe's area, is a shopping center. It's the Plasma Center moved out, of course, and they were starting to lose businesses that were located in that property. So we have worked with a private owner who is a new owner as of last year, and we are putting together construction documents to do a facade upgrade. The existing businesses, which there is now a new retail store, there is the Save-A-Lot, as you can see, a dollar store, a Family Dollar store, and then there's a few local businesses as far as an insurance company and Goodman's hair shop around the corner. So those will all stay. And we look at investing around $360,000 in a grant. We did provide this business owner with a $90,000 loan. It's part of our revolving loan program, which they use for emergency repair of the roof to keep businesses in that property. So the next project is the landscaped sign beautification that we've been working on for the past year to finalize. We do have those documents in hand. That's an example of what some of the particulars of the signs will look like for the entrances, of course, into the neighborhood, Colonial Heights, Mercy Heights, and to give you an idea of what those will look like up close, that's what we have planned on. Low maintenance ground cover and plants, as well as a pretty simplistic sign that I think is nice looking and will give a good feel to the neighborhoods. In addition, people ask why we do this kind of project, and you look at the new neighborhoods, 4200, for example, that have these nice elaborate signs, and it's a welcoming feature as well as identity to the neighborhood. And a lot of these older neighborhoods have lost their identity, so I think it's important after going through the advisory board and fleshing out what would be the best name for these neighborhoods is to identify spots of entry and then let them know what those neighborhoods are. The other project we're working on is the RWRA downspout removal program, which will remove about 60 remaining downspouts that are tied into the sanitary sewer system As you know, there was a huge project there to remove and alleviate flooding in that neighborhood. When talking with RWA and Dean Banky, we thought it prudent to provide the neighbors in that area with the homeowners in that area with an opportunity to correctly remove the downspouts. There's about 5 different ways they can be removed, and we're looking at hiring a contractor to take care of the rest of those to alleviate flooding and looking at the bigger picture of our outflow system and taking care of that EPA mandate. So as far as residential projects that we have going on, we have about, and I haven't been keeping up, I got my numbers here. We have 2 home builds, one that is complete, a new homeowner is in the property on 20th Street. We have 1 home buyer down payment assistance participant, and then the rest of these are existing homeowner rehab participants, which have already been completed and or on the docket to be completed this year. So the total private investment in this particular, the residential side, is $155,000. The public investment is $467,000 for a total of $623,000 thus far. On the commercial side, we have 23 facade rehabs, which range from simple ideas of, at Herman's Hair Shaping, we helped him reconstruct his landscape wall that was falling in, pushing against his sign, to obviously Gabe Shopping Center, which will be a complete facade repair or redo. We also have property purchases that we've completed to make way for economic opportunity, and this also includes the Triplet Twist landscaping and downspout program. So that investment privately was $2.13 million, public is $1.2 million. So you're looking at about a 1-to-2 ratio on that side. Total so far for each project area: existing homeowner rehab, $170,000, business facade, $3.23 million, landscape sign, we have put aside $155,000 for that project. First-time homebuyer down payment assistance program, an investment of $104,000, and the first-time homebuyer program, $355,000, and the RWRA downspout removal program is at about $15,000. So our total budget to date, which we're creeping up on that projected $4.7 million total that was created in 2015. Of course, again, this goes until 2019. I will see us surpassing that number. Is $1.7 million in public and $2.2 million in private, for a total of $4 million. Why do we invest federal funds in the neighborhoods? Proof is in the pudding. Recently, this report was released to, I think on WBKR is where I saw it first, or WBIO. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. But it is, looking at the research that they use HUD-approved census data as far as home ownership, housing, and then property values to come to the conclusion of where the most growth is happening in Owensboro. And at number 1 on their list is Breckenridge in 18th, which is evident in what our investment has been and what it's doing in that neighborhood. I have not pulled up the totals yet and won't do so until next year to see what the total PVA value increase is, but I will tell you that the house that we sold on 20th Street, which was slated to come in at an appraisal much lower, was of course much higher. So that's all I have, Mayor and Commissioners. If you have any questions, be happy to answer.
Any questions from the commission? Glenn.
So you and I have talked about this before, Abby, in the sense that the CBG program is at least being debated about in Congress as a program that may be eliminated. What's your sense of the national attitude currently? I've heard defense of it, and you indicated you thought they'd defend it. I hope they will, but
Right.
It's been a major tool in our arsenal to do this great redevelopment. So I know I'd be very dismayed if the program went away. What are you hearing?
Through forums and other professional contacts, I can say that we are optimistic that funding will remain in the budget. To what level, we don't know. At any rate, anything that we are given, we'll push forward and make sure that we invest that properly within our neighborhoods and to what our citizens need.
And the $54,000 number you have for the income qualification, what size family is that? Is that a family of 4 that qualified? It was one of your earlier
Oh,
slides.
no, that's the median area income. That's the,
Okay. For the-
the
just the
jump-off
community.
point
Okay.
of what the median income is, and then that's
For the
how
whole
we-
community,
yes.
and then the
Yeah.
other is the qualifying number. Okay, all right. I think I'm good. Thank you very much. I just want to say, the work you've done, the work that your predecessor, Keith Free, did is just transformed our community in so many ways. And I know that our residents appreciate it, and I, as an elected official, appreciate it. It makes our community a better place to live. Thank you for your work.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Condon.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
Ms. Shelton, it looks as if Triplet Twist is winding down by the end of October 2019. What's after that?
Well, I have begun the process of working on our next consolidated plan, which is going to include a lot of surveys sent out to the neighborhoods to make sure we understand what the citizens want. Lots of public meetings. To tell you right now, I couldn't give you an idea because I need to know what the needs of the community are first.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor.
Sean, you keep talking about economic development. Can you explain what you're calling economic development through this process of this home loans and stuff?
Sure. As far as economic development on the CDBG side and the home side for that matter, part of the outfall from creating an environment where we focus on business, we then show other businesses that, hey, we're investing in this area. There was one business that was looking at moving outside of the area prior to talking with me, and this business owner was very appreciative of the investment that we were making within the Triplet Twist area. So they decided to just move down the street instead of moving across town. It had to do with a clientele matter. They wanted to make sure they were able to serve their clientele better. But it's more so of a job retention, job growth initiative that the CDBG program backs, and we do everything in our power to make sure that we can support that initiative through investment in the commercial side of what we're doing. And as far as the home side, home building, home buyer program, giving the stability to low-income persons that would not be able to afford a house in a traditional setting, and giving them a leg up and helping them create stable living, suitable living, so they can therefore go to their jobs, go to work, and not have to worry about making a house payment. That's also an economic side of it.
Okay, so we've been doing this at least 10 or 12 years, probably. Doing it when I was here before, 15, 20 years.
20.
So do you go back and do any kind of outcome study to see actually if these people you help stay in the property, they keep the property up, they don't lose their value of the properties in the home side, I guess?
We do. We do a site visit once every year, look at PVA values, look at the PVA ownership. We don't require them to check in with us, because on the home side, what we do is we give them a grant, and then they sign a lien. They sign something that has to go down in record with the PVA office. If those people sell those homes prior to that, their affordability period is what we call it, then that property owner will have to come to us to settle up and any kind of grant that we've provided them. The same as with some of the projects in Triplet Twist, we do put a 5-year lien on some of these properties, so if they move out, it's kind of a checks and balances. If they move out, they will have to pay a portion of that grant back. So I have, since I've been in this position, since October 2015, November 2015, I've only had about 5 property owners that have been cycled through the program that have still had a lien on their property move out of the home. So, or change or have to settle up with us. So it's a very successful program, I think. As well as we report through our year-end process to the national level, and they give us reports about trends in our area.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, item number 4, Owensboro Fire Department International Program, Chief Steve Mitchell.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, sorry to interrupt. Bob Zimmerman, Owensboro. Is it in order to have a couple of questions to Ms. Shelton?
This is a work session, Mr.
Right.
Zimmerman, so there's no discussion in the work session from the
Okay.
public.
concerning the specific projects. This
concerning any specific project.
is, okay, thank you. That was my question.
Chief, sorry about that.
That's okay, Mayor and Commissioner, Steve Mitchell, Fire Chief. We're hearing a lot of positive partnerships today, and we're going to bring another one to you as well. In the Owensboro Fire Department, we periodically review all of our programs, and we want to make sure that our community outreach is reaching everybody. We embrace the diversity of our community, and we want to make sure that our safety message is getting across to our community as a whole. So recently, when we reviewed our programs, we thought we could strengthen our relationship with the refugee communities. And that was twofold. One, we wanted to make sure that we understand their culture and how they receive messages, so we know how to get those messages to them so they can understand them. So we embarked on this program, and Captain James Howard took this on, championed this program with great energy and passion, and I'm going to turn this over to him as we partnered with the international community to embark on this program, and it's still ongoing. Captain Howard.
As the chief said, Captain James Howard with the Owensboro Fire Department. First of all, thank you all for giving me just a few minutes to talk to you at lunchtime about cultural engagement with Owensboro's refugee communities. And we really are, as the chief alluded to, we're talking about a public safety partnership that is taking place, partnering the International Center of Owensboro with the Owensboro Fire Department. But beyond that, the most important partnership is having our responders be a stronger partnership and better neighbors with the refugees that are out there in our community. So to begin with, about 3.5 years ago, I responded with my engine company to an upstairs apartment near Brescia. There was a lady with pregnancy problems, and she was a Burmese refugee, and we were all far from being able to understand her, and she was far from being able to understand us as EMTs trying to assess her and her problems. The ambulance came, we loaded her up, really not sure still the extent of her problems and what could be done for her, knowing that there would have to be somebody who could speak her language at the hospital later to take care of that part of it. I got home the next morning and my wife was pregnant with our little Sophie Claire, who's 3 now, and we fortunately never had the kind of problems this lady had where she had to call an ambulance. But it really stuck with me, and I dwelled on it a lot as far as if my wife and I needed that kind of help, and the only people that could give us help couldn't understand a word that we had to say, and vice versa. So, like I said, that kind of stuck with me, and I kind of had it in the back of my mind, like I'd like to have a vehicle to be able to do something about it. And I definitely had the motivation. I was just looking for those opportunities. The past 2 years, I've been in a leadership development program with the National Fire Academy. It's called the Managing Officer Program. And it's 4 weeks on campus there in Maryland. But one of the components of it is a capstone project, and I had to identify something actionable that I could do in the community. And so that became the opportunity for me to finally do something with the ideas and the passion that I'd had for this project. So, you know, I look a lot at our vision, our mission for our department, like what we're doing there and what we can do for our community to make them safer and be a better fire department and better stewards of the public trust. And there are several things that we have as values in the fire service, but they all boil down to me, to 2 passions that I have myself, which are ethics and customer service. Those are values and passions that I share with Chief Mitchell and also with people that I've worked with on the International Center of Owensboro while doing this project. So I identified refugees as an at-risk population, not just because of my experience with the language barrier, but more broadly than that, the cultural barrier and the lifestyle differences that could actually pose them risks, whether it's the way that they cook, how they handle their pregnancies, and sometimes their births within the home. So to me, it was a no-brainer as far as an area where we could actually make some progress and make people in our community safer. So whenever I went to Chief Mitchell with this, to be honest, he jumped at it. He was probably more enthusiastic about me doing this than the enthusiasm that I brought to begin with, but that made me more enthusiastic. And he was really eager, and he's like, you got to meet with Suzanne Bartlett, and gave me contact information. And I was like, great. I was off to the races basically. And I've been fortunate every step of the way to have really enthusiastic partners, to be honest. So I developed a plan even before I met with Ms. Bartlett and then fleshed it out. But my plan was, first of all, to get educated about the reality and challenges of the refugee community, to know who we're dealing with, what their experiences are, to know where those service gaps or even duplication of services might exist, which I know are important to you guys when you're making your decisions. Secondly, I wanted to bring that wisdom back to our first responders and have that information come to us and raise awareness with the firefighters so we can actually use that out on the street and build those relationships. Third, going back to the refugee neighborhoods with a fire and home safety message, like Chief Mitchell referenced. So not just bringing the International Center and what they have to teach us to the fire department, but then going back out in the field and presenting that our fire safety message to that community. And lastly, building a lasting partnership with the International Center and with the refugee communities that's going to make us safer as responders, a little bit of selfish, it's not completely altruistic. So we're safer as responders, the people that I'm responsible for there at the station, and it's going to make the community safer as we work together as we go forward. So the first step, I met with Suzanne Bartlett, who I'll be introducing here in just a few minutes when I'm done speaking. I met with her, and I really did get an education. It was great. She is so passionate about her job. She administers a grant to help with resettlement for refugees after they get off the plane and come into our community. Learned a lot from her. Anytime I've ever done anything wrong is because I didn't listen to her as far as this program goes, to be honest. So after I got all the information from her, I mean, she was so happy to come and help and meet us out at our drill tower. Everybody's familiar with our training center right there in the middle of town, 14th of JR. She came out, she brought a member of the Burmese refugee community, a member of the Somali refugee community, came out, just had basically an information session, talked to our firefighters there at our training center. It was great, really at raising awareness and soliciting questions that helped our firefighters understand better what the refugees are, understand the difference between refugees and immigrants, just really trying to understand that community and what puts them at risk and what we can expect from them and what we should lead them to expect from us. As you can see, there's some literature up there that she had brought that day and handed out, some really good stuff. So after that, we went out into the refugee community. We set up a meeting at First Christian Church. And I'll say Suzanne really did a lot of the legwork and the logistics. She knew where we needed to go, who we needed to target, and how to get that audience into the room for the meetings. I mean, she's really been great. So you can see there's our first meeting. And to be honest, when we started out having these meetings, I bit off more than I could chew. Once again, it was always because I didn't listen to Suzanne. So as you'll see, like we go through, we had additional meetings. This is an example of a flyer that she would send out, kind of telling them what to expect at the meetings. But as we went along, we refined our approach, and we're getting better and better at providing this information to the Burmese community every time we do this. You can see the flyer that Suzanne sends out. You can see the smoke detector. She has they know that they're going to learn something about exit drills in the home and some fire safety things for the home. But beyond that, our joint message, goes into appliance safety, electrical safety, a lot of different issues. And even in that first meeting, we had someone come and speak to them about pregnancy, and that's something I'd like to target into the future with those groups. Just like I said, kind of knowing what the expectations are on both sides. So after that meeting at First Christian Church, which focused primarily on the community that lives there just east of Brescia, we had in those apartments, there was a meeting on Time Drive at Lourdes for the group that lives there at Time Drive, Chuck Ray Court area. That happened in December. And just last month, we met on Dixiana Court with several members of that community, and that was actually in someone's living room rather than at a church. And I'd like to thank First Christian Church and Lady of Lourdes too, because I mean they really let us use the venues and were very helpful. But the best meeting that we've had so far, I feel like, was in the living room with people sitting on the floor, like meeting them literally where they live. Our future plans, we still have a couple of neighborhoods that we haven't hit yet. You have the refugees that live out on Town Square Court, and then you have some that are in Lansdowne. And whenever you have these minority communities, it's not unusual for them to cluster in certain areas. So our task here is to, like I said, go out there and meet them where they live. These pictures you can see, like the folks, that's there on Dixiana Court where they are gathered in our living room. Like I said, I had pie in the sky ideas about presenting some big program on a big screen and all that at First Christian Church and really having something overwhelming. But I found that I didn't listen to Suzanne, and the more I have, the better we've gotten at this. So you can see we bring the trucks out, let the kids see them, let them get more comfortable, and remove the mystery from what we do and what we have to use when we come to help them. I want to thank you for your time. There's so much more that we can do and so much more that we're going to do as we go forward, but I don't have all day to talk to you about it. I would like to introduce Suzanne and give her a chance to say a couple of words. She really deserves to be able to. Like I said, she was really invaluable in the process. Thank you.
I don't know if I need all that accolades, but I am
Just tell us your
familiar-
name and address for the record.
Oh, sorry.
And we'll give you the accolades.
All right, I'm Suzanne Bartlett. I'm a tag coordinator and employment specialist at the International Center Owensboro location. As James stated, I have worked extensively with our refugee community, and I am very familiar with doing classes in the homes. And as he alluded to, it is easier to do a fire safety class when you're actually in that home, because the types of things that I do go over, and he alluded to some of it, is talking about the smoke alarms, obviously. So to actually have a physical smoke alarm there and actually sounding the alarm on it lets them know what this is all about, what they need to do with it, if they hear it, what they need to do. The safe heating practices and cooking, as he alluded to also, they do a lot of cooking, some of it not so safe. Some of the apartments that they're in are very close-knit. You have to be very cautious about where everything is. So I mainly teach them about things on how safe cooking practices. Also about the electrical cords and anything that's in the home. We have a lot of children that are here in our locations, and they're so very curious about things that they've not seen before. So as children are, they tend to poke things in holes, and so we have to be very careful and very guarded. And we do provide our refugee families, when they come in, with the little covers that go on the electrical outlets. So again, that is something that we really want to be aware of with the fire safety. Also, making sure that if any of them smoke, which they're not supposed to in their apartments, but we know they do, to safe practice on that and how to dispose of the butt when they do that. And also really making sure that they know how to exit their home. We have less than adequate landlords here. Someone will probably tell you that on a consistent basis. And a lot of them do not have second exits. So we have to really be cautious about telling them, you know, if you have a fire or a smoke or anything near your door, you need to go out a window in your bedroom, you know, not to exit out that door. So we have to be very cautious about how we talk to them about that. And also, as James also alluded to, we want to make sure that they're not scared to call 911. They're not afraid when they hear the sirens. Bring them in, the actual trucks into the neighborhoods. Let the children see the trucks. Let them become familiar with any of our officers that come and respond if they're in uniform. Because most of them that have come from their countries, the government or any safety personnel has not always been the best thing for them. So overcoming those cultural barriers, that's the main thing. And that's very difficult. As all of you in this room would probably know, if you were plopped down in their country and you had to overcome those barriers there, it would be very difficult. So it's the same with our clients that are coming in. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on the resettlement process. That's for another time. But I do want to thank the fire department for taking up this initiative. I think it's been very helpful, and we will continue to do that as new families arrive. We won't just do it in one time and then exit out. So I thank you for their time, and you do have some brochures in front of you, and there are information pamphlets here on the table if you want to take them when you leave. And do you have any questions?
Questions from the commission?
Any questions? Bob?
Okay.
So what's the I've got a Burmese family that lives right to the base. They're great neighbors,
Right.
terrific couple that got married. But the question is, so how does it break up? Like, what percentage of our incoming folks are Burmese, Somali? Do we have any data that indicates that?
Well, as we all probably are aware that the current administration has put a ban on at least 8 countries for our refugees coming in. So our main 99% of our population here, refugee population, is from Burmese. And then we also have maybe a % left of the Somali community. Very small Somali community because there's not a lot of people that are coming here, so they don't like to stay, so they relocate to a larger community. But we're overcoming barriers with the language, trying to help them to understand. And I didn't bring the flyer that is actually translated in Burmese that I usually take around to the communities. This is an English one, obviously. Some of them do have family and friends that do speak English and read English. But that's about how it's broken down right now, and it doesn't seem to be getting any different other than maybe in the fall we might start receiving some folks Congolese. That's the only new wrinkle, I guess, if you want to call it, in our program. Anybody else?
You're welcome, sir. Okay, this brochure of
Yes.
foreign born, all that stuff. Has anybody tried to relate that to our community per se?
Well, we tried. Those were
These are
from
all
the rally that we took to Frankfurt, the immigrant and refugee rally that we had last Wednesday. We can break that down. It is very hard for the Kentucky Office of Refugees to do that for just the Owensboro area because they mainly work the state.
But you all are.
But I can get those stats for you.
Is this is part of General Youngman's
It is.
thing, and
It
I'm
is.
very familiar with all
I
of
know.
this. So
Right.
I'm just trying to get a cost basis ratio of dedicating revenue and the benefit of this. My mom's from Belgium, so don't talk to me about not knowing about refugees. But,
Well, and a lot of
but I'm
times-
just trying to, because people ask in the community.
I know they do. I know.
And we need to be prepared as elected officials to tell them just exactly what we're doing with taxpayer dollars to try and help these folks. So,
Well, actually, Mayor, it's really not taxpayer dollars. All the funding that comes through for our refugee resettlement is federal dollars. The
so there's no
state-
taxes involved in the
Well,
federal.
the state only manages, no, what I'm saying is
I
we're
know,
not using federal dollars to resettle them. But yes, and as far as what we're talking about and what you want, it has been very difficult for us to do that
Are
because
they
our
transit too much?
KOR
Too transit? Do they move around too much to try and get ahead?
a lot of times, yes. And we
I've
have a
taken
lot
care
of.
of a bunch of them in my office over the years.
I know. And we
so-
have a lot of secondaries that come in. Secondaries meaning they come from another state and they settle here maybe because of family or a job. Not so much like anybody else that might be traveling around. But that makes a difference too about who actually comes here as far as, original resettlement as opposed to secondary. So it's been very difficult. But KOR, Kentucky Office of Refugee, manages our funds and our grants. And that's the latest that they have come up with. The website is very helpful. It breaks it down a little bit more for the Owensboro area. So, you can go to the Kentucky Office of Refugee website, and there are statistics on there for Owensboro.
Good.
They're not they don't go back as far as what we like. They start in 2013. This office opened in 2010. So there's about 3 years, difference.
Is Dr. Litzy still involved with the program?
Dr. Litzy has moved on, as have 3 of our individuals, so there's only 4 of us left. He is working with a Welcome Project, and it's a 501(c) basically, and what it does is utilizes volunteer church groups, and they help us with some of the resettlement protocol that we have to do. So he's still involved, but not in a paid position. So there's only 4 of us. So as I keep reiterating, because the current administration has put a limit on the number of refugees coming in across the country, which used to be 100,000. Now they brought it down to 50,000. So obviously
Okay.
that has made a difference.
Just
So,
some general questions that people get asked in the community.
but I
Thank
would
you.
like to, I'm like you, I would like to be able to break it down. It is very difficult because there are a lot of transit movement.
Okay.
And, but I would like to have that, and if I do, you will be the first to get it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bartlett. Chief, you guys got anything else?
No, I just wanted to summarize, one challenge we do have is interpreters that, of course, the International Center helps us with. But we have found that our best interpreters are their children.
You got that right. Yeah. My
So-
granddaughters teach it. They teach English as a second language at Owensboro Christian with
Right.
a lot of the Burmese children, so.
So thank you for having us today, sir.
You're welcome, thank you. Okay, item number 5, OBKY Project Committee Reports, Dr. Fred Reeves, David Johnson, please.
Mayor and Commissioners and City staff, thanks for giving us a few minutes to talk to you. Before I start, I think it's important you know, we've had upwards of 30 committee and subcommittee meetings that are putting together these recommendations. So the people who are working on this, they're putting in an incredible amount of time. And I think it's really important that you know 2 things, that this process, a great byproduct of it is so many citizens are finding out the struggles and the hardships that government's going through right now, and they're also understanding how city government works. We would both be real remiss if we didn't talk to you a little bit about how helpful the city staff has been. We've had 4 or 5 of your staff members directly involved with this, and their leadership has been very helpful, but also the information they provide has helped guide us in directions that help us make wise decisions. And sometimes, if you know Wayne very well, Wayne doesn't speak a lot, but when he looks at you and kind of gives you the, you need to move on, that's maybe not a great idea. I think today what we're going to give you is Dr. Reeves and I will talk to you about the most recent recommendations we have. And if you have a question, stop us. We'll try to get through them quickly. And the last recommendation we have is one of our committee members has come to talk to you, and Sally Barker, but we'll let her conclude the program. But to start today, and again, just stop me. I'll try to rapid fire through these and give you some background. But the first issue is a marina in Owensboro. Yes,
Keep in
sir.
mind, we don't have any of this stuff. We're just looking at it on the screen, same as you guys, so there's no way for us to really follow you as you present this stuff. So just, if we look like we're, there you go. Oh, I guess it might be on the little thing. Is it on the little thing? No, it's not on the little thing either. So it's just hard to follow you when we don't have
No,
any
I
information.
understand completely. The first
Thank
issue
you.
on our list is putting out an RFP for a marina. We talked to boaters, and I had been a boater, and Ms. Rogers is a boater, and when we had a marina before, the one thing boaters want, they don't want a marina with a lounge and a balcony and bathrooms. They want a place that connects to our downtown area. They want a marina that connects to where the old marina sat. They don't think the city needs to get into the marina business, but they would like the city to set some parameters and say, here's an RFP. These are the things we want, and these are the parameters, the things you have to produce. See if someone in the private sector would take that on. Second thing is, we would ask that you support House Bill 33, and it's a bicycle safety bill, because so many people with Bicycle Owensboro and a number of other groups in town really want to expand bicycling in Owensboro and make it a more bicycle-friendly. House Bill 33 just basically designates 3 feet of the road to bicyclists. Bicyclists came to us and said, it's so dangerous in our town riding bikes. People yell at you and scream at you. And part of the initiative, too, is we're going to work with the parks and OPD to maybe increase in education for drivers and for bicyclists out there. The third thing, deal with wayfinding signs. If you've ever been to other committees, it's a program the Transportation Cabinet has where they have these decorative signs that they produce. And it basically, your own community designs the signs. They produce them and sell them for a reduced rate. And other communities have them. The chamber is working. They have included, and they have convened a group with agribusiness, the Bourbon Trail folks, the CVB, certain retail. And what they're going to do is they're going to put these signs, they're going to design these signs and bring them to you and say, do you like what these look like? I might say too, because this is going to be a city-county venture that they will probably go before fiscal court when these signs get completed and show you what they've got. They're really looking at a public-private partnership on this, so hopefully this is at no cost as well. The fourth thing is talking about a Neighborhood Alliance 2.0. After we got into the Neighborhood Alliance, I think what we found out is it's not functioning and it's not producing what it produced 15 or 20 years ago. Basically, the participation is down, interest around the community is down. So working with your own Leslie Neely, who's been very vital in this, she has talked to members and she has been out there because she is the contact person. So we've put together some recommendations that are going to require an ordinance change. But basically the biggest components are have monthly meetings of representatives from each Neighborhood Alliance, and they would become an advisory council to the mayor. They would take back information. The city representative, which is Leslie now, she would meet with them monthly and really kind of combine what their purpose is, get them focusing on 2 or 3 things that they really make a difference with, merging their budgets because there's lots of money out there, but also maybe having them do some things as volunteerism, beautification, and make them a component to welcome people not only to the community but their neighborhood, because that's not being done right now. The fifth thing is creating a walking path that's already in existence downtown. It would be called the Mayor's Mile. You basically start at the River Park Center, you go down all the way, you follow the river, you come around the Holiday Inn, and you come all the way back up Veterans Boulevard. You'd go by the Hampton Inn. The exciting thing about this is the hotels like it because they have so many people who come and want to walk or they want to run, and they want a lit, level, safe path. This path that we've marked out is 1.23 miles. The hotels were very interested in putting signs in front of their front doors when you walk out that says, okay, it starts right here, and when it ends right here, it's 1.23 miles. We could have, we've worked with Mr. Shelton, we could have that sign also down at the River Park for people in Owensboro who want to go down and they want a designated walking area. And we thought without polluting our downtown with too many signs is that there could be some of the OBKY symbols that just lead you, passively around the path and you know where it is. This is not at great cost. Basically, this is just going to be designating an area for people to walk. The sixth item is the Owensboro Transit System and the trolley. The deeper we get into this, the more we understand that it's a difficult issue, but everyone on the committee is committed to making transit better in Owensboro. Because what we've found out by talking to people and observing is that people are not using our transit system. We have buses and trolleys that are going around town and they're empty. Some people on our committee went and tried to figure out if they could get to work. They took it upon themselves. They got the app out. The app doesn't work very well. One person that works at UniFirst figured out it was going to take her 2.5 hours to get to work. She really wanted to see if she could get to work within 45 minutes. And then even at that, she didn't think she got to work. She thinks she ended up on the other side of town. So the system's broken. It's not anyone's fault, but it's broken and it needs to be fixed. Some things they have as recommendations. Investigate some other initiatives that are going on. I think 60 Minutes had I turned the TV on and they have a micro transit system that talks about it's an on-demand system where you call and they come and pick you up in vans. They don't have buses anymore. And it costs you $2 each way. It's subsidized private and publicly, but it's working. We found out, Dr. Reeves and I were in Muhlenberg County, and one of their foundations is funding Uber and taxi service, that they'll come and pick you up if you qualify for one thing or another, but they're taking you to and from for $2, and it's working well. They talked about using smaller buses and vans. One thing they would like to do to get people riding and understand our buses are nice, our trolleys are nice, or maybe on 2 big events where people complain about parking, maybe the air show and the barbecue festival have 1 or 2 pickup areas that aren't in downtown So I can drive to the sports center or Owensboro High School or jump on a bus or a trolley, and it's sort of like big events cities have. Those buses and trolleys are running all day. So to come and go, you never have to wait over 5 minutes, which would get people, there would be some costs, but get people on a bus. The last couple of things they talked about are putting together a pilot program, possibly with second shift workers. You were talking about Burmese right before we came up. The problem they have is getting to work. And you can never, sometimes getting to work's okay, getting home to work from work on second shift is impossible. Our buses don't run at that time. We talked about a pilot program where you would just service maybe the air park. You'd get 2 or 3 businesses together and you could see if it works. Moving on, the next thing, every single group, we know this is expensive, has a cost, has some planning involved, but every single group wanted to bring back Winter Wonderland as a festival. I was getting my hair cut, and you know, when we were doing this process, I started asking everybody that I met, what's something that you want to bring back? Person cutting my hair back, she thought, scratched her head, she said, I just really want Winter Wonderland back. And so who takes that on, whether it's a convention center issue, whether the river park goes back and tries to revitalize that, but citizens really think that's important. The Arts and Entertainment Group pushed creating an entertainment district in downtown Owensboro, which is a footprint where patrons and retailers can do and sell and do certain things in that entertainment district. From what we know, the city, I think Mr. Ross, Mr. Parrish, and several people, this weekend there is going to be an entertainment district in downtown Owensboro for an event. So it's our first step in that direction to see how it works. So that's exciting. The last thing before I turn it over to Ms. Barker is many people think that Owensboro and Davis County needs a mobile welcoming center. And that's something that you can pull to events. You don't always have to have someone manning it. In certain events you would want to, but it's a mobile unit that shows up and monitors pop out like you have, and you can set brochures out, and the monitors are telling people who come to town what's going on, what amenities we have, places where you can stay, things you can do. You know, it started with someone that had been to the colleges and been a parent, said, you know, when I showed up at Brescia and Kentucky Wesleyan, we showed up and didn't have any idea what was going on in Owensboro. And someone said, wouldn't it be nice to have a welcoming center? And from that, it talked about having it at all the big events that take place in Owensboro, where when people show up, all the conventions, that it's a conduit to find out what's going on. Because the biggest thing that the Arts and Entertainment Group found out is that it's not that there's nothing going on, it's that people don't know what's going on. We're not marketing our product. It's not getting to people. And with that, Dr. Reeves, do you have anything?
No, I'm just here to answer the tough questions.
David, when you say mobile versus like a kiosk somewhere where people can go and, you know, and read a kiosk, you're talking about a vehicle, a mobile?
It's a mobile kiosk.
Mobile kiosk, okay.
Mayor, Independence Bank has one that they take to events. It's basically one of these trailers that has kind of a V-front, and you just have that opens the side like a mobile food truck does or whatever, and in there you got brochures and like I might have a monitor, Dave Kirk, just looping to tell you about what's going on this week or whatever. So it's a physical vehicle you take. You're probably looking at around $25,000 to put one together that you'd want to have out.
Sally
is next. Any questions?
Yeah. Oh, I got one big question. How's this going to stay off? How have we talked about when we talked about this at the State of the City, this was going to be the easy part. The hard part was implementation. When do we get to the implementation issues?
All of these are implementation. What this group is doing is handing things and handing them off to the city and CVB and the chamber. Many of the things have been handed off. So the process is producing things. Like one of the top issues, talking about marketing, came out that we need a community calendar. Well, it naturally evolved that CVB stood up and said, we'll take that on. So that's done. He's doing it. It's active. We're trying to, because your charge was, we want change in Owensboro. We want to move forward without spending money. So every time somebody says that costs money, we go, can't do it. Find out who we can give it to and who can do it. So
And you're keeping track of that so we can do
Absolutely.
the appropriate stuff.
And you know, when Ms. Barker gets done today, you're going to have a chance to say go or no go. And I think you'll say.
Well, you
giddy
going
up.
to tell us about the wraps on the buses? Would you get that off your chest?
I get up on that.
Come on, get it off your chest. Somebody's phone's ringing somewhere.
Hello, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Sally Barker.
Hello, Sally.
I really work at Welborn Floral Company. That is my job. I serve as a citizen appointee on the Parks and Rec Committee for the OBKY project. As you can imagine, being a creative person, I think out of the box a little bit. I've spent a lot of time in downtown Owensboro. Between the River Park Center, the Convention Center, I know the ins and outs and everybody that comes in and out of town with my job in handling events. Within that, the amount of people that come into town with the Bluegrass Museum opening up, Smothers Park, O.Z. Tyler, the Bourbon Trail is going to be put on the Bourbon Trail starting in September. They're going to start running shuttles from the distillery to the hotels downtown, which is exciting. So we have all these people coming in from out of town on a weekly basis, and there are a couple of hotels downtown, but I feel like that we have a whole market that we have not tapped in our downtown area. So today, I'm excited to tell you all that I think we need an RV park downtown and where I think it should be. So within our committee, I'm a camper. I go to Romp every year. I go for the entire week. I go on Tuesday. I come home on Sunday. My kids and I camp all the time. We've driven to Florida to camp. We spend a lot of time at Diamond Lake. And a lot of people that come to Owensboro end up at Diamond Lake or at Windy Hollow. Once you get there, you tend not to leave because it's just too far to drive. We've looked at some areas for RV park, and we talked about Ben Hawes a little bit, but you know, going out there messing with the environment and with the sewage issues and things out there, it just didn't feel like it was a good fit. So after one of our meetings, I sat there and this light bulb went off, and I was so excited because I knew I had the best idea ever. So I hopped in my car immediately after the meeting, and I drove right down to English Park. Now, rewinding back about 25, 30 years, I won't show my age, my mother was at the Tourist Commission for years and retired from there. And as a child, I went down there in my granddad's Airstream when the Bluegrass Festival started, long, long time ago. Since the Riverview facility that used to be there is no longer there, we basically have an empty parking lot sitting there that is producing no revenue for the city. So I walked off all the spaces, did some research on how big of an RV spot needs to be, and there's 138 parking spots in that upper lot. We could actually transform that into 53 RV parking spots. We would be the first city in Kentucky that has an RV park on the river with downtown access. It would not be hard to do this. The electrical's already in place. The sewer lines are pretty much there. These spots could rent anywhere from $35 to $50 a night. There were 250 campers, not tent campers, actual RVs at Romp this last year, and they ran out of space. So with the Bluegrass Museum getting ready to open up, most people that follow bluegrass music, they all camp. Your softball parents, they camp. Your soccer parents, they're now driving RVs everywhere they go. This would be a great location. The trolleys could run right down through there, pick everybody up. Anybody that's coming in from out of town would have direct access to downtown, and I just think it would be a win-win for everyone involved. So that's my excitement. And you can ask me questions. I don't know if I can answer them, but I'll try real hard.
Questions?
And now we would like your blessing to move forward with this, please.
We got to talk to Dollar Bill first before we do anything.
Well, and that's really what we want to do, because this is just kind of a dream of mine and something that, and really I presented to the committee. And I would like for us to have the opportunity to move forward to research this a little bit further and see what we can come up
With
with.
all the hookups and everything, my son drives a big old one, all the volleyball tournaments all over the country. So the hookups and everything's.
Yeah, and really the where the Riverview building used to be, all the sewer lines are there, so it wouldn't have to be full hookup. You could almost do an RV, like just a dump spot within that area. So it would just be water and electric hookups. The restrooms that are there could be retrofitted to have a shower with a keypad.
Are they handicap accessible now?
I believe so. They were locked the last time I was down there, so. Yeah.
They're handicap accessible though. Questions, anybody? Commissioner Villada?
Thank you. Ms. Barker,
Yes.
Aside of cost, looks like you're going to have to probably figure out a way to contain this area. Do you guys have that plan worked out too? And
Really, this was just, I mean, this is just an idea at this point. Definitely would have to be fenced in. There are a couple of different RV parks that I've visited. The majority of them, you know, if they are in the metro area, have been enclosed or fenced in, and then they're run by a gate system where when you reserve, then you have a keypad that you get in and out, and there's a gate. So.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome, Mr. Condon.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
Sally, let's assume that you got the money.
Yeah.
You have all the operating costs.
Yeah.
And it looks really cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you're driving into town, down 2nd Street. You make a right-hand turn on, what is that, McFarland? Annie Lane? But before you get there, what do you see? On your right-hand side, left-hand side, on 2nd Street.
You mean between the convention center and when we get there?
Yeah.
What? It's the Cadillac.
Oh. There's a little bit of some areas there that when you have a first impression of Owensboro, especially when somebody's driving a $80,000 RV to come in and park there, which is a great premise. I love that idea. It's what they see coming into that area. Even on 4th Street, come down 4th Street, make a left-hand turn again, I guess. I don't even know if Henning goes straight across.
Spend a
that
lot
way.
of time on 4th Street.
Excuse me? So, and coming the same way. So you have a little bit of first impression issues there, which is what brought me back to asking Ms. Shelton, what's your next project? Because if you're moving forward and Triplet Twist is going to wind down at the end of October 19, then your advocacy should be, Ms. Shelton, what would it take and what does the inventory look like in order to change that view as you actually drive into the potential RV park? So I ask you, please concentrate not only on that, but what's around it that would lift up the rest of the neighborhood, because that's what you really want to bookend that to make sure that the rest of the community comes up, please. So
Well,
I
once
thank you
you're-
for the idea. I love it.
Once you're actually in that area, you know,
Yeah.
either side and the, you know, 3 sides of it are great. You know, you've got the boat ramp on one, you've got the new condo development and Fern Terrace on, I mean, visually there you're great.
Right.
You know, but yeah, I agree, but I just, yeah, I think we have a piece of property here that could potentially be just off the charts for marketing for our city, so.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Commissioner Glenn.
Okay, so is this just for special events, or is this all year long?
No, this will be pretty much year-round, and this is where it gets a little squirrely with our weather, because,
Because, I mean,
you know, if it's 10 below, like it got this year, I mean, obviously your water's not going to run. It's going, you know, it's going to freeze. You know, like you wouldn't want people doing RV hookups possibly in January, February. But I feel like that's kind of a detail moving forward. If we move forward with this project, that could be something we determine as far as weather contingencies.
Yeah, and you go get a hotel room since you're already here.
Right? Yeah.
so the other question is, so the access to the park is still allowed? People can still come in here and park and take their kids to the
Well,
park and all, or does that get impacted there?
There's the upper parking lot, if you look at that picture, the upper parking lot on the left would still be accessible. Where the rectangles are drawn in, that would be the part that would be fenced in.
Well, and there's parking on the opposite side near the boat ramp.
Right, the boat
So
ramp,
there
yes,
is some
correct.
additional parking. My only concern is we would hear a lot from the public if they suddenly said, well, they had this big group, you know how folks are, they get intimidated. They're like, I wanted to take my 7-year-old down there and I couldn't do it because there are all these people with RVs. And it would de facto, it wouldn't be intentional, but it'd be de facto one of these things.
Right.
People would feel like they couldn't use the park because so many people were there using it as an
It would
RV.
also, you know, and I agree with that, but at this point, it would also be producing income for the city as well, which I think is very important, so.
Well, yeah. And you've done a cost analysis?
No,
We're done
that's
there?
that's
coming.
why my excitement is here today, is to ask your blessing that we can move forward and with this project and get some cost analysis and things like that together for you, so.
Sally, City Manager would like to make a comment, please.
And it's not negative, it's
No.
positive. I think this deserves to be looked at. I think all of these recommendations. But I would ask the commission's indulgence. The city staff begins tomorrow the budget process. We will be totally consumed by budget. And every day the legislature waits, it will consume us even more. I would ask your indulgence to wait until after we get the budget passed here in Owensboro before we tackle this. We just don't have the staff to take on new projects.
We don't have
but-
extra people?
You made us get rid of them, Mayor. I think that we can, think we can take on all of these and work
Great.
with these committees
These are
and
great.
and try to drive it forward.
Okay.
If I could.
Commissioner Condor.
Sally, I do know that 3 years ago in Carrollton, Kentucky, they put in a new RV park. It's right off the Kentucky River into Ohio, right there. It's a little over 1.2 million, I think is what it was done. If you could contact either someone at Carroll County or Carrollton, Kentucky, they could give you the background of what they put in. They even put in tankless hot water heaters, everything else to be able to do that. And what they found now after 3 years, what has happened, what drew people there or not, and how much would it really cost. So I advise you actually to please contact them.
I would do it.
Commissioner Smith Wright.
Sally, that's exciting. You go, girl. What did that mean? Oh, okay. As far as the entertainment district, David, we've been talking about that for ever, so I'm glad to see that that has come up because, I mean, ever since I've been on the commission, we've been trying to get that entertainment district, whereas we could maybe move from one spot to another, maybe with something in our hand. You know what I'm saying? So, so that's good. And then the Winter Wonderland thing, I'm truly for that because everybody that I know was disappointed when the hospital stopped sponsoring that. So maybe that they'll do it again.
Go, girl.
Yep, I'm trying to go.
Okay. Anything else on outstanding, Sally? Thank you very much.
Mayor, may I ask a question of one of the presenters about Neighborhood Alliance real quick? Neighborhood Alliance, that proposal. Okay, so David, my question is this. I don't disagree with you about, Neighborhood Alliance involvement's down, but the reality is community involvement at many civic organizations is down. It's a demographic issue. But the other question I've got, I have seen a lot of them to use Nextdoor. There are some groups that are doing very well because I visit all of them. Some are healthier than others. And so am I understanding that there would not be individualized Neighborhood Alliance groups? They would just come together in one big group?
No, they would still meet. City staff just wouldn't have to go to 12 different meetings. They would have their meetings and they would come to the advisory council meeting and meet with who would be led.
So they'd have their local meeting in the advisory council, kind of like they do now. They do it quarterly now.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other question is, when you talk about merging budgets, I mean, I think they get $500 a year, some amount, and I know sometimes that's rolled down. Some have spent more than others, and I don't disagree with the idea of trying to use that's city money, and it's the taxpayers' money, and so obviously using it for projects is a good idea. So the question is, what kind of projects came out of the conversations you had that would involve this merged impetus and energy?
The three big ones that came out, one was because there seems to be a lack of someone who organizes volunteerism in Owensboro. And the first thing that they thought they could do is use some of those neighborhood alliances because so many neighborhood schools in town don't have enough volunteers. My wife already volunteered at Sutton. She's a principal. She said, listen, we'll take volunteers tomorrow if they have them to do so many things. The second thing that they talked about, and Leslie was involved with this too, was having a welcoming committee that comes and the purpose, like every time someone moves in, it's new or from out of town, someone on the alliance has a purpose to go and welcome them, maybe take them maps. If they're from out of town, take them some CVB stuff, some stuff that would be on the mobile welcoming center. This is what's going on. Here are the schools. Here are the places that you can go to church here. And maybe some gift cards and gift certificates to get them involved. The third thing was the beautification project, because from basic public services, several people talked about that there's a problem in town with littering and places that don't look good. So those were the three areas that they thought they would start, because and Leslie, you can jump in. The biggest reason people aren't involved is because they're not doing anything. There's no purpose for the organization except to come and share ideas and problems. Like, they have to have actually something they do and they're responsible for. It's a great process and system. But if your neighborhood's great, the city, everything's going great, what do you come and talk about? I mean, there's nothing to talk about. But if you have some things that are our purpose every year, and some groups do block parties to get people involved, and that could remain part of it, but we want to give them a purpose because I think I live in the Dogwood Azalea. Like, I don't go, I'm happy. Like, I'm thrilled to death. But if there was a purpose, I would go join. Like, if there was something I can do, I'm just not going to go to a meeting to look at you and say, well, what are we going to talk about today? Well, there's nothing to talk about. So what we're trying to give them is something to grab onto. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's a cyclical thing. If you don't have a lot of people in your organization, it's hard to say we're going to do this project. But I would say that one of the elements I've noticed that's been a positive is there have been some alliances that have come together to do projects together. I know Seven Hills and Midtown East, we collaborated on several projects. And when your group is aging out, some of the members are older, they're not able to do the physical stuff, and or you have a drop in decline, because like you said, David, a lot of people are just happy. We have a great community. There's not a whole lot to be upset about in some neighborhoods. But I will tell you in Seven Hills, the 22nd Street mess we had, they came to a neighborhood alliance meeting and they let people know. And I don't want to lose that. That's my only concern. I don't want to lose that
part
local
would still
connection.
be there. And Leslie's done a great deal of work on trying to connect the neighborhoods through social media.
Yes, she has.
And she has a whole plan on how we would use postcards and teach people, like my parents, who would need some step-by-steps on how to get involved. Is it called Next Door? In a program that keeps them up to date on what's going on. So there's another component that she's working on. But hopefully within the next month or so, we'll come to you with a recommendation and an ordinance change to revitalize what's going on. This is not to eliminate it, it's to make it better.
Thank you and Fred for your work, and also thank you to you also, Sally, for your work, your idea. Awesome.
Commissioner Smith-Wright.
I just wanted to say, David, that the persons that was talking about the neighborhood alliances, do they belong to the neighborhood alliances? See, I kind of agree with Bob here, because both of us, I was the initial chairperson of Wesley and Shawnee, and I served as a chairperson for 12 years before getting this job. But the thing is, if your neighborhood is good, like you say yours is, until something happens, then everybody's happy. And when that thing happens, everybody runs to the neighborhood alliance and say, hey, we need this street fixed. We need this done. We need that done. And they're there until that gets done. And then once that's done, they've gone back. So what it tells me on one hand is that the majority of people are pretty satisfied with what's going on in this community. Now, when you get a group of people together like we have here, I tell you, we can pick out each person in here and they'll tell you one thing they want done. They want this done, they want this done. But are they going to come to the meeting? No, because we just told you at that other thing we wanted it done, go do it. And that's, you know, and I hate to think that, but that's the way a lot of people are, that, you know, they'll tell you something, but they won't be the person to get involved to get it done.
Commissioner Smith, one of the things I've seen is I think the neighborhood alliances are becoming reactive rather than proactive. Now, we had a special focus group session for the neighborhood alliances when we started this process. You know how many showed up and they were all invited? One person. One person. So that began to make us think, what's the interest here? And yeah, if they got flooding, yeah, they're going to come together. But this is a notion maybe they can become more proactive in ways to do some things that need to be done, take on some new chores as opposed to simply be reactive whenever the potholes happen.
Well, then maybe it needs to be revamped some way. Maybe we don't need them in the form that they are now and redone some kind of.
That's what this whole proposal is. Not eliminating the neighborhood alliances or anything that they were able to do. Just making them better and getting people involved that want to do it.
Yeah, Ms. Neely and I, we started talking about that the first week I was here, when every time I looked up, she was gone to a neighborhood alliance meeting. She'd come home, she would come back to City Hall and say next day and say, yeah, there were 2 people there. There were 4 people there. So we talked about doing this board of a council or whatever you want to call it to bring the chairs there. And if they can take that information back to their group whenever they meet. So how many people do we have at that dinner this year? Yeah, I forget. Out of all the neighborhood alliance,
At the dinner, we had about 120 people.
and how many out of 12 neighborhood alliance, there were 4 no-shows, if I remember correctly?
Out of the alliance groups, I think there was only one alliance that didn't bring anybody. Mhm.
And the rest of them, okay, but I'm just telling you, like Dr. Reeves said, it needs to be looked at, and we've been looking at it for a year because it's a waste of staff time, basically, and they don't, and one of them's got hadn't spent any money in how many years? And
Several years.
several years. They just have built up their checking account and they're not doing anything with it. And so this didn't come from me, but we've been talking about it because I've seen very little results from city staff managing this. I know it's a great avenue for politicians to go and talk. I mean, everybody does that. I'm gonna go talk to, and you may go there and there's 5, 7, 8, 10 people or something, but that's not what they were set up for, I don't think. But it's a project that I think needs to be looked at in the OBKY project, yes. And Leslie's on top of it. Thank you. Okay. Longest work session in the history of this city.
And it's not over
Usually it's
yet.
like 10 minutes and it's the middle of the day. And Mr. Parrish, item number 6, city project list.
Mayor, the city project list is
Guys.
included in your package. Should anyone care to speak about those as a group or individually, I would be open to meeting with you after the meeting.
I just have a thank you to City Public Works, whoever. They had a hole in the street on Maple Avenue, and it was there forever and a day, and then finally they put some, I guess, concrete in it. And I go there every morning on the way to the health park at 4:30, so it's dark. I ran over the cones twice, and and everything, because it sat there forever. But finally, I want to thank you for getting all that stuff out of there, so I can go right down the middle of the street and not hit anything. So it's nice and smooth. But that project lasted a long time. Did it take extra long for that concrete to cure? City engineer, it's your fault. Wayne, I wasn't talking to you.
I think it's one of the utility contractors working over there, and so.
Throw them under the.
Well, it's still our street, we try and.
But it was there for 6, 8, 10 weeks, just one hole right in the center of the.
Yeah, just
street.
like a 2x2 cutouts they do. Small cutouts they do in the
It's
street.
a little bit bigger than 2x2.
Yeah, but sorry
But
about
I
that.
just curious if that's, so the utility work drug on, you couldn't get it filled in because of them?
I believe so.
Okay, that's a good answer. Anybody else have anything on the project list?
Well, actually, but can we close that door? Can we close that door? You want to ask, or shall I?
Yeah, I was going.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Who wants to be recognized down there? Commissioner Pam Smith Wright with the new hairdo. Looks good.
Thank you. I
Well-
just wanted to ask about Gabe's Tower now. Have we decided on anything? Is it been any change?
Well, when,
No, Mayor, nothing's been decided yet. Mayor and I had a conversation with the owner of Gabe's Tower. It does not appear that there's any financing in place. It does not appear there's anywhere for this to go short of receiving federal financing, that there's no plan to get the federal financing. And that's where we're at right now.
Thank you.
okay. Ms. Hamrick, you might know, the tax increment financing districts, have they been activated? Both of them are going to be, or?
Yes, they're both activated January 1 of 2018.
Okay, so how often will we get a report on how close we're getting to the base, or however that works?
Well, the minimum 20 million, is that what you're referring to, the capital spend? We have reached that point, and we are engaging local auditors to audit those numbers. That's a requirement
Right.
by the state, and so that's where we are with that right now.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out when we're gonna get some money out of them. That's what I'm looking for down the road, that, once we get to that.
Yeah,
Is it too difficult to predict that so early?
we're looking probably not till 2019 at the earliest.
Not too bad.
Yeah, I know Bowling Green had submitted a request for some funds from the state, and I think there's just a delay in the state. They don't have the staff there to process the paperwork the way we would like to see it done, and so they haven't received their funding from 2016 yet.
Don't be surprised there won't be a pause on the return on that investment, so I'm just trying to give you a heads up.
Yeah, we're
'Cause-
considering that conservatively in our long-range plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Good enough. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else from anyone? This time, item number 7, consider a closed session under KRS 61.8101B to discuss the acquisition or sale of property. I will make a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you. We will move into closed session.